I feel many emotions tonight, but the deepest emotion of all I feel is that of humility.
He was the Prime Minister who broke this nation's heart.
That is an absolute myth. It is absolutely contrary to the fact, and I absolutely repudiate it.
Little desiccated coconuts under pressure, and he's attacking anything he can get his hands on.
Prime Minister showed he's not only a man of steel, he showed the world he's a man of heart.
He was the politician's politician, the master strategist held in awe by his colleagues and his enemies alike.
His greatest strength actually was his courage.
His great strength was always persistence.
The future security of this country.
Over 4 decades, John Howard has stood at the centre of Australian political life, and for 4 decades he has variously delighted and divided the nation.
Well, he's certainly astute, but he's conniving as well, and I don't hold that against him. Politics is not a profession that rewards virtues, so anyone that wants a virtuous Prime Minister, I'm afraid I don't think we're going to get them.
Peter Van Onselen is the author of the book John Winston Howard. He believes that John Howard's Prime Ministership was based on 2 very simple things. The first, his innate determination, and the second, a 2-decade apprenticeship in the art of leadership, starting with his elevation to the job of Treasurer in 1977.
I just happened to be in the right time at the right place. I hope one of the elements in it was ability.
Malcolm Fraser did that for a couple of reasons. He wanted a man in there that he could control, and John Howard was a competent person but still young and inexperienced and therefore controllable. He also wanted somebody that would be a block to leadership aspirants like Lynch or like Andrew Peacock, who was emerging, and he wanted somebody that was on his side in the great battles against the National Party.
If Howard's time in government was frustrating, his time in opposition was worse. Not only was he forced to sit by and watch Paul Keating introduce reforms he had championed, for the next decade he fought a ruinous war with Andrew Peacock for control of the Liberal Party.
I will remain the leader of the Liberal Party for so long as I deliver the goods.
I've told him he has my full and total support.
Hi, John. G'day, Bob. How are you?
It's hard to comprehend the impact that time in opposition had on John Howard, and to understand it depends on who you talk to.
He persisted in keeping going because he believed in himself, he believed he had something to offer, and he also believed he understood Australia and Australians.
But I think also that experience with his colleagues increased that portion of his personality that was somewhat cynical. Cynical about the motives of people with whom he was dealing with, cynical about his political opponents, both within and without the party, cynical about what was necessary to do in order to lead the nation.
Whatever his political adversaries might have thought about John Howard, the voters made their views clear in 1996.
When he got into government, I think one of the things that had really started to fray in Australia was confidence in public debate. There was a really strong sense of censorship, that if you weren't saying the right things, then you were racist or sexist or classist or whatever it was. And he absolutely insisted that there be 2 sides to the debate.
In practical terms, Howard wasted no time at all. His razor gang took an axe to the public service. Tax reform began in earnest, and there was the first wave of industrial reforms, all just in time to prepare for an Asian economic crisis. For all those achievements, by early 2001, John Howard's Prime Ministership was looking a little the worse for wear. Internal Liberal documents tagged the government mean, tricky and out of touch. But then came a ship called Tampa.
I have no doubt that John Howard and his close advisers knew that Tampa was a wedge issue that would win them votes, and that they could therefore use that to get themselves back in the election. It was just convenient for them that they also happened to believe that it was good policy.
Next came the Children Overboard affair and another election win over Kim Beazley.
He was an early wedge politician. He always had a bit of an understanding of the fact that there was a strong middle class, if you like, and working class backdrop to the Liberal Party's vote, and was there to be won. And he was looking always for the issue that might tease up something elemental in the Australian psyche.
Having come from behind in 2001, John Howard committed troops to assist the invasion of Iraq. And then in 2004, he turned his attention to thrashing Mark Latham at the polls. With a majority in the Senate, Howard was at the peak of his powers. There were many things he could have done, but he drew on his experience in Malcolm Fraser's government. Don't waste a Senate majority. His answer was work choices.
He put ideology ahead of pragmatism, perhaps even thinking he wasn't going to be contesting this election just past, got changes through, felt comfortable with them, but of course in doing so, lost his constituency, lost his Howard battlers.
And so the Prime Minister with the private telephone line to Middle Australia had made a fatal political error. Why he simply didn't pull stumps a year ago and leave it to a new leader, no one is quite sure. What we are sure about is that John Howard and his legacy will be argued over for many years to come.
I think when we look back at John Howard's Prime Ministership, we'll see missed opportunities, we'll see contentious, polarising debates, but at the end of the day, he presided over a rocketing economy. I don't think we can just say that he got lucky on that. I think he set that up early with reforms that he instituted, so he deserves credit for that.
He's going to have a bad time at the hands of the historians, because you've got two bookended periods of government. You've got the Hawke-Keating 13 years. You've got the Howard-Costello near 12 years. It's going to be looked at as something of a recreation of the Menzies era of the 1950s, the era of missed opportunity.
A man who understood Australia much better than he was ever given credit for, who understood and loved its history, and who understood its people.
I wish this nation well. I believe very profoundly that Australia's best years lie ahead of her, and I wish the government elected by the people today the very best of good fortune in the years ahead. Thank you.